tonight's Healthy Living Lecture, Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine, Scott Luper, graduate of the National College of Naturopathic Medicine, Portland, Oregon, honors in research, taught at the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Arizona, serving in chair of diagnostics and chief medical officer, special interests in cancer and autoimmune diseases, special training in digestive orders, thyroid disease. He's been serving Fairbanks for 25 years. Avid cyclist, just learned of his tour through Italy. Well known around town as a drummer in the South Cushman Social Club, great musical favorite here in Fairbanks. Tonight's talk, How to Starve Cancer, roughly an hour. We'll have time for questions. And if I could ask Dr. Luper to maybe repeat that question, I found that's probably the best way it's picked up on the audience as they come in. So with that, a hand for Dr. Luper.
Oh yeah, I'm good. That's right. Thank you, Mike. I would just start off by reiterating what Mike just said about Michelle. She makes Fairbanks a better place, sets up all kinds of fabulous things to do. I really appreciate the work she does, makes my life better. And Mike Powell, same thing, Mike, same story here. You're an institution practically here in Fairbanks in terms of figuring out ways to make life better. I appreciate that much. Makes it better for us to live here. The introduction, thank you for it, except for it didn't really say what's important. So let me redo the introduction. I'm a primary care doctor. I'm a general practice doctor. So I have a regular practice. I practice downtown, and I treat everything that comes in the door. It just so happens one of the things that comes through the door, actually a lot of them, is cancer. And so it behooves me to know what to do to help my cancer patients. My hope tonight is that what I'll teach you guys is how to survive cancer. It's very straightforward. It's not a simple thing. Cancer is not one thing. It's lots and lots of different things, but there's some philosophy behind it. As I go on, you'll get a chance to see the logic of what I'm saying. So let me just go to the next slide. It's not doing the thing here. You'd think it would just work like it did before. Okay, there it is. All right, primary objective, help people survive cancer. Oh, tell you a story. So about 1.5 years ago, I had a patient show up with metastatic stage 4 breast cancer. She's 32, she's got 4 kids, a lovely husband. I mean, she's the person you do not want to lose. And so I've treated a lot of cancer over the years, and I've been very helpful by keeping people healthy as they go through chemo, primarily, so that they don't have to quit the chemo. And it's it's steady work. It's not an easy thing to do, but it is doable. But I didn't think I was going to be enough for her. And so long story short, her mom, who I was talking to outside of the clinic, gave me this book, the one that's up here, this How to Starve Cancer by Jane McClellan. This is why I'm doing this talk, because this book is fabulous. So if you want to get more information about what I'm talking about, this is the book. Let me give you just a quick rundown on it. It's Jane's story mostly. She had or has stage 4 ovarian cancer, the kind you don't survive from. And she got chemo, but the chances of chemo working was really low. And she's just a go-getter. And she's a researcher by nature. She's an author. She's an entrepreneur. She's just somebody who's got tons of energy. And so she just researched the heck out of it and collected notes. She called it her spot of bother notes. And she collected notes on how to stay alive, what works, what doesn't work. And then after years of putting this thing together and after years of surviving, she survives still to this day, she wrote the book. The book is brilliant. It's fabulous. At the beginning, as it reads, it's a really easy read. As it goes on, it bogs down into minutia, and it's horrible to try to sort out, and it's a big mess. Nonetheless, it's absolutely worth looking at. If you have cancer, know somebody with cancer, I absolutely recommend this book. And just with all humility, I'll do a better job of explaining why this works than she does. Okay. Big picture to start off with is characteristics of cancer. So what we're trying to do is win. Seriously, we want to win. We want to survive. We want to kill the cancer. Let's not baby it here. We're going to try to whack it. So we want to know our enemy, because it turns out that the difference between us and cancer is not much. Cancer is from us. The cells mutated and they're doing this other thing. They're not cooperating anymore. So it's kind of a knife edge between the stuff that kills us and the stuff that kills the cancer. Now there is a difference. There are in fact real differences between cancer and non-cancer, and we could utilize those differences and do utilize those differences as a way to survive. So let me just go over some of the details of the differences. Okay, big picture here. Cells gone bad, yeah. DNA damage. Every cancer has damaged their DNA. DNA is the instructions for the cell to perform, to do whatever it does. Well, these cancer cells aren't doing whatever they're supposed to do. They've quit doing that and they're doing something else, so the instructions have been altered. There's a loss of growth control. They grow more than they should. There's a loss of position control. They move around. That's called metastasis. There's a loss of metabolic control. Ooh, that one's interesting. That's the talk, is that metabolic control. And lots of variability. So let me give an example. It turns out if a cancer uses something more than the rest of the body, I'll give you an example. Asparagine, it's a protein that's found in asparagus. Okay, talk about obscure. And you take this asparagus protein, and some cancers like it, and so they use it. Now, if you can find some way to break down this asparagine ACE, you can starve the cancer. And you could tip the balance between surviving that cancer and not surviving that cancer. That's a kind of leukemia. And this is a real thing, and it's a real thing that's done in the world. Again, looking for the differences between normal cells and not normal cells. Now, it's not that we don't need asparagine. Our body can use asparagine. It can burn it for fuel. It can do lots of things with asparagine. But it is not an absolute necessary thing that our lives depend on. So if we lose it, we survive. And this particular kind of leukemia, if it loses it, it doesn't survive. This is the game. Trying to go through, knowing what the differences are and utilizing them. Okay, so before I do the slide, let me just say what I'm doing. When people come and see me, I ask a lot of questions, I run a lot of tests, and I try to figure out what's working and what's not working. If it's working, yay. If it's not working, then we try to compensate, to build people up, to make them strong as they go through the treatments. Most of my patients get chemo. Not all of them, but most of them do. And what I'm trying to do in the big picture is I'm trying to weaken the cancer to make it more susceptible to being killed by something, and then killing it. Now, sometimes people come to me well into the cancer. They've already been through chemo. They've been doing lots of different kinds of things. That's a different kind of case. I treat them differently. I'm not necessarily going to starve their cancer into submission because they're already on their last leg. I'm just trying to do what I can to keep them healthy. And that's another talk. Let me say there's another thing to do. But the patient I mentioned, the 32-year-old mother of 4, she came to me in perfect health. And often patients do. They're actually healthy. They don't have any symptoms. So those patients are prime to do the setup, which is to starve the cancer, which is to weaken the cancer. Now, this makes perfect sense. I mean, to me, it's like obvious. Of course you want to weaken the cancer, and then when it's weak, you want to whack it. I mean, you can't get away. Who could argue with that? That's like the most sensible thing in the world. Except for, cancer's similar, so maybe it's a little bit tricky in terms of how to starve it and how not to starve it. So anyways, big picture here is weaken the cancer. This is phase 1. Prevent cancer repair. So if there's ways we can block the cancer repair, then there's things we could do. Prevent cancer growth. And again, I will give you details of this. Blocking blood supply coming to the cancer is one way to do it. Prevent cancer spread. Again, there's chemicals that cancer uses, and we can do various things to do. And kill phase, the phase 2, is what we want to do is we want to trigger apoptosis. Let me speak to this at some length. You would think that when you do chemo, that the chemo or the radiation kills the cancer. It does, but not the way you think. Because if you kill the cancer, you're killing the human. You're killing the person who has the cancer. So you can't do that. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's not, you legally can't do it. So what you need to do is you need to trigger the self-destruct program that all of our cells have. Each and every one of the cells in our body has a self-destruct program. And that program will kick on if there's enough damage to the cell. I'm going to describe how this works, but let me just tell you, everything I'm going to tell you is an oversimplification because it has to be. Because if I tell you everything, first of all, there's not enough words in the English language to do that. Also, there's not enough time in this talk. So there's some pieces I'm leaving out. But here's the big picture. The big picture is there's a protein inside our cells called the p53 protein. Its job is to sense damage to DNA. If there's any damage to the DNA, remember all cancer has damage to the DNA. If there's any damage to the DNA, then that protein causes that cell to focus its energy on fixing the DNA damage. It slows the function of the cell, basically blocks it off from doing what it normally does, and focuses on fixing the DNA, or it causes that cell to commit suicide. So every cancer that we have has this thing broken. It's broken. It doesn't work right. Otherwise, you wouldn't have cancer. So that's why cancer is as rare as it is. I mean, we're making, it's estimated somewhere around 10,000 cancer cells a day. And why so few of them actually turn into cancer is because our body has all these systems and backups of the backup systems to not let the cancer grow. The p53 protein is one of the key systems. So how it works generally is the chemo or the radiation generates more damage. That damage damages normal cells and the cancer cells. But the cancer cells started out with more damage to begin with, not enough to kick in the p53 because p53 is broken in some way, but enough there where if you add more damage to it, it crosses a threshold and the cell will commit suicide. So the chemo is not killing the cell directly, because if it did, it'd kill everything. What it's doing is it's killing it slightly enough to trigger the self-destruct program. Now, why am I going on and splitting hairs on this thing? Because chemo is not the only way to get that self-destruct program to kick on. Turns out there's a bunch of stuff you can do. Okay, so if there's a bunch of stuff you do, how come the oncologists aren't doing it? Yeah, good question. They should. I think it's because it's hard to be an oncologist. They have to know a lot of stuff, and they can't keep up on every single thing ever. I think that's the actual answer. They're busy to do everything. And also, you just, as an oncologist, you come in, you get the cancer diagnosis, and then you match it in the big cancer treatment book, which exists, and you look it up by the cancer, and you do that treatment for the patient, and research shows that chances are it's going to work at this percentage. It's cookbook. Because you can treat a lot of people, boom, 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 fast, fast, fast. And that's how you help society as a whole. Now, if you got the time and energy to get deeper and to come see Dr. Luper or Dr. Luper's twin, turns out we know more about how to get this thing going than the oncologists do. Not to say I'm not an oncologist. And not only that, I appreciate oncologists. We are lucky to have the Coxes here in town. They're excellent people. I appreciate them very, very much. I do lots and lots of work with them. Okay, here's the reveal. The reveal is I have cancer. I've had cancer for 3 years. So all this stuff that I'm telling you, I have a certain insider's line of perspective on this. And Andrew Cox is my doctor. So I visit him every 4 months, or 5, or 3 rather. And we talk about the weather and bikes. He sent me a picture of his bike, and we talk about everything except for cancer because I don't really need treatment because I'm doing this other thing that seems to be working pretty good. I'll see more about that. So anyways, the oncologists, God bless them, because I love the work that they do. It's super important. They don't have all the answers and not doing everything possible. So let me give you one little example. It's off the slide, but I'll just give you an example. If we want the p53 protein to work better, and we can actually get the cell to be more amenable to protein folding correctly. I'm using weird words here. In order to get the cells to work right, there has to be a certain environment that allows the proteins to fold correctly to do what they're supposed to do. It has to have a certain temperature. If the temperature changes, the protein folding changes. You've seen this with your own eyes. If you've ever fried an egg, you give it the heat, it goes from clear to white. Yeah, those are proteins changing. They're folding. Okay, so you got to keep the temperature narrow. That's why we're all 98.6 or close to it. Also, you got to keep the pH in a certain range. If it goes outside that range, then you're going to be folding proteins again. What's that called? Ceviche, right? There's a name for that. You cook it with acid. And also you need the redox balance to be in a range. Now, redox balance, what is that? That's the balance between reducing agents and oxidizing agents. The world around us is oxidizing because we have oxygen in the air. But our cells don't like that because it tends to wreck them. So we have all these reducing agents inside our cell. Those are called antioxidants that push us way over to the reducing side. Now, cancer tends to drift over into the oxidative side because its metabolism is all screwed up. So if you can get that metabolism to drift back over to where it's supposed to be, the P53 folds correctly, kicks on, and the cancer commits suicide. Woohoo! That's how to do it. And every once in a while, you're lucky to do it. First cancer case I ever cured was by doing this, and it was by accident. I was treating something else, had somebody with prostate cancer. He did the thing. He came back and said, my prostate cancer is gone. Thank you, Dr. Luper. I was like, oh, you're welcome. Still, I remember that trick. Now, it doesn't always work because it's not one thing. Cancer's not one thing. He happened to have a cancer that was amenable to be treated by getting the redox balance to change back. Okay, so we want to trigger apoptosis. We want to trigger P53 protein function. This little apoptosis thing over here, just to have a picture for you to look at. Basically what apoptosis is when the cell dies, it just doesn't go boom and blows up. Because if it does that, it's really bad. It creates tons of inflammation. And people get sick from this thing. It's called tumor lysis syndrome, and it'll kill you. They have to stop the chemo if this happens. The cancer's dying too fast is what it is. Now, what the apoptosis is the cells, instead of just blowing up, the cells pinch themselves off in little blobs. They're called blebs is what they're called. It blebs, and then the blebs hang out with everything encased in the little membrane, and then the white blood cells come up and they eat it up. Now, it takes a while. You know, you got 3 or 4 cells, it's not a big deal. You got 3 or 4 million cells, that's a lot of eating that has to take place. So the whole process has to go slowly enough so that you don't make people sick as they go through it. So that's the dealio. We don't want to lyse the cells. What we want to do is trigger apoptosis. Oh, then we also want to stimulate cancer-killing immune cells. Okay, this is the crux of the talk, this whole section here, which is starving the cancer. Now, the dealio with cancer is it's got an altered metabolism. Normally what our cells do is we absorb glucose, we burn it through the Krebs cycle, oxidative phosphorylation, and generate ATP. A lot of words here. So ATP is the little AAA battery. It's always the same size. It always fits in the slot. It runs everything inside the cells. And so you pop the battery in, it does whatever it does. You throw it away, you pop another one, throw it away, pop another one. This is how our cells work, is we're using this ATP to run everything. Most of the ATP is generated by mitochondria. Mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. Except for cancer doesn't do it like that. They do it differently. Cancer just pretty much ignores what other mitochondria is doing and just starts making ATP directly out of glucose in a very inefficient fashion. If you burn glucose using oxygen in the mitochondria, you can generate 22 ATPs out of one glucose. If you're just going to burn it for itself, you generate 2. How does a cancer grid even grow? It's so inefficient. Interesting, isn't it? No one quite knows why. There is an idea, which is if you don't mess with the glucose much and burn it into carbon dioxide and water, you can take the broken pieces and make stuff out of it. And so you can actually grow faster. But you have to have tons of glucose. If you run short of glucose, the whole system breaks. And so this is a weakness, this is a difference between us and cancer. And we can utilize this. Now you may wonder, why have I never heard of this before? Or if you have, why aren't people doing much with it? Yeah, me too. It seems so obvious. Let me answer the thing though. This is super important, except cancer's not stupid. If you block the glucose, in about a month and a half, because the research has been done, it'll figure out a workaround. And it'll start burning fatty acids instead, or glutamine, which is an amino acid, instead. It'll do something else. So this thing where you starve the cancer of sugar, that was tried. Sometimes it worked beautifully, many times it failed. It worked at first. Hey, your cancer's shrinking. Hey, this is good. It's moving, and now it's going to hell in a handbasket. So that's what Jane had done. I already knew about this cancer, the sugar thing. It's called the Warburg effect. I already knew about this, and I've already used it on patients, and I had exactly that experience. I had patients get better and then not get better. And what Jane pointed out was there's alternative pathways, and we need to block them all. So glucose is one of the things we're going to block. We'll talk about how to do that here in a moment. We also want to block glutamine. Same thing, we'll talk about that. We will block fatty acids and talk about that, how to do all these things. And I'll talk about what it's like for me personally to be able to do this. So glucose, glutamine, fatty acids, and there's occasionally other amino acids. Maybe this asparagine thing I told you, that's an example of another pathway that an obscure kind of leukemia uses. Okay, so what cancers, most cancers have a personality and they center on a certain metabolism. The majority of cancers, maybe the vast majority, but definitely majority, run off of glucose. So 75%, somewhere around there. It's hard to say exactly because the research is new enough that it's not everybody's looked at every single kind of cancer and analyzed its metabolism, though shortly that will happen. This area of research in cancer is blowing up. So I'm a fast adapter, early adapter, and I'm telling you about it, but in short order, everybody's going to know about this because it's the trend of the future. Because as we go through this, you'll see it's so logical. You just can't escape from the logic of noting how cancer gets its nutrition, blocking that nutrition, weakening the cancer, and then surviving based on that. Anyway, so most cancers, glucose metabolism. Some of the examples here are breast, colorectal, pancreatic, prostate, lymphoma. Again, most cancers. Some have amino acid metabolism. Mostly this is glutamine. Leukemia, prostate, breast, triple negative breast cancer. Melanoma, colorectal, lung, ovarian, more. Fatty acid metabolism, prostate, leukemia, breast, lung, colorectal, more. Notice we have breast on every single one of them, colorectal on every single one of them. It's like, really? Yeah, cancer is that variable that even if it's the same kind of cancer, it's not necessarily using the same metabolism. The metabolisms vary. So right now, there is not a test that I can use to figure out someone's metabolism. You think there would be. That'd be like a great test. If there was that test available, I'd order it in a hot second. Except for it's not there. Not that I know of. I haven't seen it. So my approach at this moment in time is to block them all. And even if there were a test to show you what the metabolism is, eventually the cancer will do a workaround. And so you're going to eventually have to block them all anyways. Okay, so how do you block metabolism? Oh, before we do that, we're going to talk about glucose. So I think I already said this. Cancer cells generally want and need sugar more than normal cells. Yeah, Warburg effect. Otto Warburg, he is a researcher who discovered this whole thing back in the 20s. Eventually won the Nobel Prize. Question?
It's okay to ask questions.
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, I should have said that at the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm real good with questions.
And sugar, when you mean sugar, do you mean all carbohydrates?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Or you just mean sugar?
No, yes, I mean all carbohydrates. Now, I mostly mean glucose, because glucose is what the cells are burning, but other carbohydrates can be converted into glucose, or there can be burned. There's a lot of overlap. In fact, I'm using the wrong word, because I want to keep this like real instead of being theoretical. What am I talking about? I'm talking about bagels and pasta and rice and food, potatoes. I'm talking about normal starches that we eat in our normal lives, normal food. This is what's driving the cancer, because all those foods are easily converted into glucose. Because if you get a starch, those are all starchy foods. What a starch is a sugar with a sugar with a sugar with a sugar, like pop beads, pop, and you run them out for hundreds or thousands and string them together, and that is rice. So when you eat those, our bodies are exquisitely effective at being able to break those little bonds between the sugars and releasing the sugars into our bloodstream. Okay? So what we're really looking to do is we need the sugar because our cells need sugar too. What we want to do is when the sugar comes in our bloodstream, we want to grab it all and leave none for the cancer. So we want it, and so the cancer doesn't get any. Now, that's not possible. The cancer's going to get some. But we just want to make sure we don't want to flood the bloodstream with sugar. Now, you sit down and you eat a couple of donuts, or better yet, you eat a bagel. I'm sorry about the bagel thing. They're like the worst than it's the whole, right? It's the whole. Basically, what a bagel is bread that's been boiled to concentrate it. You cut into a bagel, it's solid through. Wonder Bread's full of holes. You take Wonder Bread and you could squish it down to a little square. I used to do that when I was a kid, because you can. You can't do that to a bagel. So bagel has more carbohydrate per unit volume than any other bread that I know of. And that's what makes it worse. And also it's delicious. That's the other thing that makes it worse. You put some, poppy seeds and garlic bits on it, and man, it's just killer. And with cancer, killer is the right word. So what you do is if you're eating these things, I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's right. If you eat these starches that convert into sugars, you're flooding your bloodstream with sugar. Your sugars go up high. Now, do they? I don't have diabetes. How do I know they go up high? They may not go up high. How do we actually know that? Well, the answer is what you do is you get a little device, and you put it on the back of your arm or your shoulder, and then you eat things, and you see what makes it go up. And if it makes it go up, don't do that. So what do I eat? I don't know, stuff, protein, but not too much because some of the cancers like protein. It's always something. There's got to come up with a balance of what you do. What about bananas? They got sugar in them too, right? Bananas? Yeah, you're right, and they are bad. They can be. Now you get a ripe banana that's fabulous, got some spots on it, super sweet. Those are the ones that'll shoot blood sugars up too high. You got a green banana that is so green it's hard to peel. Your blood sugars hardly go up at all with those. But what's the point? So you got to figure out where to draw that line, and we're all different. So as I work with my patients, I tell them, I said this today, as I work with my patients, I'm a good coach. I live it. I know what it's like from the inside. I know what it's like from the outside. And so I'm a very good companion on the road to health. I'm sitting in the passenger seat pointing vigorously. Y'all are in the driver's seat. You go wherever you want. So I don't have control. I'll just give you advice. But the mindset, you got to have the mindset, we are going to happy land. And I'm going to have to make some turns on the way to figure out how to get there. That is, we want to starve the cancer, we want to weaken the cancer, and then we want to kill the cancer. And that's how it's done, just like that. I like to win. I don't want to lose. Okay, so I talk about fermentation. I didn't use the word aerobic glycolysis. That's Warburg's word, as opposed to oxidative phosphorylation. If y'all were doctors, we'd be going deep into that because I like all those big words. That's great, but we're not, so let's not do it. And then, actually, an interesting thing about this is this hunger for sugar is used as a way of measuring your cancer. So let's go back to my story. About 3 years ago, I got the flu, and I got a fever, and I got sick and achy, and so I went home and laid on the couch for 3 days and got better, and then I went, back to work and saw patients for 3 weeks, and then I got the flu again, and I got a fever for 3 days, and I thought, this is weird. I just got the flu. I got flu again, but I stayed home for 3 days and laid on the couch, watched Perry Mason and old movies. And then 3 weeks later, I got the flu again. I got another fever, and I thought, this is not the flu. This is something else. Now, I had recently been to India for a wedding. My son got married to an lovely Indian girl. And I figured, I got malaria. But I checked for malaria. I didn't have that. Well, I got dengue fever. No, I didn't have that either. Tularemia? We tried everything. Eventually, I got hooked up with a local doctor who I respect and is really good. And he ran every test he can think of and couldn't figure out what this was. And so I said, thank you. And then I went and got another doctor in Anchorage, who's another doctor I really like, who's really good, super clever. He ran every test he could think of and couldn't figure out what this was either. By this point, I'm 6 months into it. And I had a patient no show. And I had an hour. And I thought, I gotta get to the bottom of this. I mean, 6 months I've been dinking around like this. So I did what I should have done day one, is I got out Harrison's Principles of Internal Medicine. It's about that thick, heavy thing, right? And opened to the chapter on fevers, read everything about every fever known to man, and the last entry at the end of the fever section was the fever where you get it for 3 days every 3 weeks. It's called the Pell-Epstein fever, and it's caused by lymphoma. And I thought, bingo, that's what I got. And so I went to one of the local surgeons and said, I got lymphoma. And he said, no, you don't. There's no way. No, seriously, I got lymphoma. I know, I got this fever thing. I told him the story. He says, no, you don't. I said, come on, man, I need help here. I know I got to confirm it. So eventually I talked to him.
The other doctor said, no, you don't.
Why?
This is the reason why.
Well, because my labs didn't look weird. Because normally if you have lymphoma, your white blood cell count's screwed up. Also, I wasn't sick. I looked normal, like I do now. Now, every 3 weeks, I had the flu. Now, after I learned I didn't have the flu, I just took ibuprofen, which is a miracle cure for flu, by the way. And I went to work. Now, the ibuprofen, I figured out how to do it. You take too much ibuprofen, you burn your guts out. But if you just take one, that's 200 milligrams, and then you wait a half an hour, check in, how am I doing? I'm okay, or not. Then you take another, then you wait half an hour, check in again. If I'm okay or not, take another. See what I'm doing? I'm saving my guts. I'm inching my way into being able to work. But, this is not a solution. This is just a stopgap to try to figure out how to get through this thing. I'd rather figure out I have a lymphoma and then I can actually do something about it. So anyways, long story short, I eventually talked him into doing it. So he took a lymph node, biopsied it, called me in a week and said, oh my God, you have lymphoma. I was like, I already knew that. Except for, it wasn't the kind of lymphoma I wanted to have. I wanted to have Hodgkin's lymphoma because you can do chemo with that one and just get rid of it. Instead, I got follicular B-cell lymphoma, which is not curable. Yeah, bummer, right? Yeah, like that. So my lovely wife cried buckets, right? She was really like, nice knowing you kind of thing. And I was like, nah, then we're going to work it. I'm not just going to, do nothing? No. So I called everybody. I talked to Fred Hutchinson cancer folks. I talked to these researchers in California, UC Davis. I talked to the Coxes. I talked to everybody and read everything I could on every kind of chemo and every treatment and just imagine, right, being me, in the position where I can actually read the stuff and understand it. And so I did a deep dive in all this stuff. Meanwhile, I realized what was causing me to get the fevers was my white blood cells. These are my B cells. These are the cells that make antibodies. They were dumping their white blood cell chemicals to elicit an immune response to get my immune system jazzed up to fight off the infection, except for there was no infection. The actual problem was that my white blood cells, my B cells, were not committing suicide. Now, they're supposed to. How it works for y'all is you make 1 million of these every day, and they all have different configurations to make different kinds of antibodies. And random, just kind of random mix. And some of them happen to fit with stuff that you get exposed to, COVID or who knows what, right? And so you make antibodies based on random chance. So 3 of the 1 million are upregulated because they found something to interact with, and they go into long-term protection. The other 999,999, right? 7, those guys all commit suicide. And they do apoptosis, like we showed you before, clearing the way for another new batch. Yeah, mine don't. They don't want to leave. They want to stay. Not that they're causing any trouble. They're just, hanging out. So now what I have is a housing problem. I have too many people and not enough houses. So where are they going to live? because they're not going anywhere. They take up space. They're small, but you get a million of them every day. Eventually, they start taking over the real estate. And so what they do normally is they inhabit lymph nodes. And so the lymph nodes grow, and that's how you find them. You get swollen lymph nodes because they're just getting bigger. Now, for me, it wasn't really a lymph node thing. That's the other thing. You fill my lymph nodes and they were fine. Where they were living was in my bones, which is weird, but not unheard of. They were, not only were they living in my bones, but my bones were riddled with this stuff. It was amazing I could make blood because my bone marrow was being taken over by these B cells. How do I know this? Because we ran a PET scan, and there it is. This is me. This is before. In fact, I'm just going to point with my finger. This is before. This is 2.5 years ago, and this is about a half a year, something like that. If I'm not getting the dates wrong, maybe it was a year and a half ago, something like that. But what we're looking at is the black blobs are where the radiation was taken up. So what I did is I went down to Anchorage where they have a PET scan, and they injected radioactive glucose into me, which is a trip to get done because the guy is all covered with, the thing's all covered with lead, and he's like almost with the prongs, and everything's all covered up. And I'm going, don't you worry? He says, nah, we're good. We got it all covered. I know how to stay safe. But okay, what are you going to do with that? You're going to inject it into my bloodstream, right? I'm going to have radioactivity. What about my kids? Oh, yeah. You got to stay with your kids for at least 24 hours. They can't sit on your lap because they're going to pick up the radioactivity. All right, whatever, I want to see. So I want to know how bad it is. Because maybe I just have one little spot, right? And it turns out I'm not going to die after all. It's just one little spot. I'll be fine, right? So then I get the results back, and I'm riddled with cancer. So what happens is the cancer cells are hungry for glucose. You put glucose in your bloodstream, they suck it all up, and they glow. And so we could see the spots. I don't know if you can see this. Right up here, my shoulder, that's not supposed to be there. That's not supposed to be there. See all these spots that run down the middle here? None of those are supposed to be there. See all that? None. All this is cancer. This entire area. Now see, that is a kidney. Because your body's going to pee out collect and get out the radiation. So the kidneys concentrate it. There's another one. The bladder concentrates it. Because at this point, I'm about an hour into this thing. And what's this here?
Brain.
Yeah. Because the brain loves sugar. And so it sucks it up. So my brain got a quadruple dose of radiation. It's amazing I can still think. Trippy, isn't it? To see how much cancer a person could have, it's like blew my mind. Okay, so then my wife had to cry a whole bunch more. But then I started thinking, here's the thing. I started thinking, now if my cancer likes sugar so much, maybe I should quit eating sugar. And I could weaken it, at least slow it down. I mean, if I eat a bunch of sugar, it's going to just speed up. And here's the other weird thing about it is my metabolism had increased to where I could eat anything I want. Now, before I knew all this stuff, I realized, I could feel it. Not that I was losing weight, I just feel I was hungry. And so normally I can't eat carbohydrates, because I just get fat. And for a little while, for about like a month and a half, I could eat anything I wanted. I went traveling and I had French toast, and I had these little donut-y thingies, and I had all this other stuff, not knowing what I was doing, feeding my cancer like crazy. We can never do that anymore, never. It's just a fond memory of the way things used to be. Now, what I ended up doing is I ended up taking this concoction just as a stopgap. It was a mixture of curcumin, which is made from turmeric, and glycyrrhiza, which is made from licorice root, and Ganoderma, which is made from reishi mushroom. And they're all anti-inflammatories. And what they do is they reduce inflammation. Now, where's inflammation coming from? Those little chemicals inside the white blood cells. So if I can shut that down, then I got my life back, and it was a miracle cure. I have never had fever since. They all went away, ever since. I had a kind of maybe if I squint, I could feel a little bit of a fever, maybe about 6 months later. It wasn't really a fever, it was I felt funny, but I never had those fevers for 3 days where they knocked me out. They just went away with those 3 simple herbs. That's all it took. Now I continue to take those herbs and I continue to feel absolutely normal. But that's not good enough. That's not good enough because it's still growing. It's everywhere. I got to shrink it. So at that point, I thought about the sugar thing. I thought, I got to quit eating stuff that turns into sugar. I got a glucose monitor. I'll talk more about how that works. Then I also was working with other patients and started doing the same thing I had them doing in terms of taking various things. I'll show you what that is here in a moment too. And then eventually I did vitamin C, high-dose vitamin C IVs. Now the purpose of doing high-dose vitamin C IVs is not to protect myself and not to make myself more healthy. It is to kill my cancer. The vitamin C at high dose acts like chemotherapy. I know it sounds weird. Like, how could that even be? And I kid you not.
How high dose is a high dose vitamin C?
You need to get the blood levels up to 350 milliliters per deciliter, whatever it is. Like when you check your blood sugars on the little machine, and it says you're 127, you need to get to 350. Now, why would you do a blood sugar machine to check your vitamin C levels? Because vitamin C and sugar are almost the same thing. They look the same. There's a slide here I'll show you. You can see the difference between them. The vitamin C's got a little change on one of the sides, otherwise they're the same, and they register the same on the machine. So you get the blood sugar monitor up to 350, and that's your dose. Now, what does that translate into? It depends on how big you are. I'm pretty big. That's 100 grams of vitamin C in a bag that's administered over a period of about an hour and a half. I can take it fast, though, and I'm also got patients waiting, so I tend to speed the whole process up because I go back and go see patients. So the next time I do it, I'm not going to do that anymore because it makes me wobbly. It makes me super thirsty because it comes in like high concentrated sugar. And in the bag, I mean, that vitamin C, if you pour it out onto the tabletop, it looks exactly like syrup, like Caro syrup is what it pours like. And what it does is the sugar levels, the vitamin C levels are so high, they trigger a reaction that generates free radicals that damage the cancer cells from the inside. And cancer cells love sugar, so they soak up the vitamin C like it's sugar, and they concentrate it. See, there it is. There's normal cells, and there's cancer cells, and there's a difference. They're not the same. This is where you can split the difference. Vitamin C is one of those things. Some cancers are completely amenable to vitamin C, and it is a cure. And it's like, man, you don't have to, who has to do anything else? We're just going to do vitamin C. But those cancers are rare. Most cancers, they can take a hit, and you have to do other things. So, okay, can we use like chemo instead of vitamin C? You bet we can. Absolutely we can. So we want to weaken the cancer for a period of time, 6 weeks. And then we want to do a dose of chemo or whatever for 3 weeks. Kill. There's more other things to kill with. Anyways, I did one of these treatments. They're 3 weeks long, twice a week. I had to work my way up to the 100 grams. I started at 25, then went to 50, then went to 75, then went to 100. At this point, I'm 2 weeks into it before I get to the correct dose. And then I did 1 week of actually the correct dose. And this is the results. Okay, I'm still riddled with cancer, but a lot of it's gone. See this one? It's gone. See this one? It's less. See all these ones? Way less. This one's much less too, with the exception of here. And these are mostly all gone too. There's a piece still here, a piece still here, something right on this side. And then there's a little area right here in my sacrum that it looks, if anything, it's a little worse. This one looks worse, maybe. This one looks worse. Here's kidney, here's heart. But here's also another kind of weird thing. But there's an explanation for this one, and this one. The explanation is I built a tree house last summer. It's really nice. It's more emphasis on house, less on tree. Got 2 big white spruces in my yard, and I figured, I'm alive now. If I'm ever going to do this, better do it now, right? I'm not going to wait 3 years to build the dang thing. I'm going to do it now. So I brought my son-in-law and his wife up, Eamon, and they were fabulous. Eamon's a monkey, climbed the tree like it was nothing. Anyway, and also you have to have a tree house high enough to where you can feel it, and that's about 12 feet. So at 12 feet, you look down and go, woo, I'm up. This is high. But if you fall, you're not crushed and destroyed. You break a leg or an arm or something, but you could survive it, right? I've thought about it very carefully. So I'm putting siding up on the side of my treehouse, and the ladder's stuck on the joist hanger, and it shifted a little, only because I got cocky because I'd been up there the whole summer, right? And it slipped, and I rode that ladder all the way down, about 12 feet, and landed on soft forest duff, but with enough force to bend that aluminum ladder. I bent the rungs, and I bent the crossbars, what are those called? Rails or whatever. The rungs and rails. They all potato chipped up. It was impressive to see what happened. But I hopped up. I'm good. I wasn't good. I had fractured my back. Which is funny how you could hop up and not even know it, but that's the fact. That's exactly what happened. And I had crushed L4. I had damaged my sacrum, and I had damaged whatever that other one up there is, T8 or 7 or something like that, was also damaged. And they were crunched, and also had a disc popped out, had a herniated disc, on top of having this cancer. Now I'm having pain. I don't know, is it the broken back? Is it the cancer? What a mess, right? How do I kind of sort this out? And so there it is. So now I've done 3 more courses of vitamin C, and I can't tell I have cancer at all. I feel nothing, zero. I feel nothing. I don't know if I'm cured. If I'm cured, I shouldn't be. Chances are I'm not. Probably what's really just happening is what I'm doing is it's fighting it down, knocking the numbers down. They're shrinking up. And then, I don't know, we're doing this battle, right? Because the cancer's going to try to figure out ways to kind of go past what I'm setting up here and try to do something. And no doubt I would be fighting this battle the rest of my life.
All right, you said that you don't have symptoms now, but what symptoms did you have, and when was that?
So I had fever.
Other than the fever?
I had achiness. I mentioned that. I had bone achiness, and I had pain. I had bone pain is what I did. And also I could feel it. If I moved funny or did things, I could tell it was there. There was this kind of subtle sense of it. And so once I became aware of it and then knew where it was, then I could actually locate where I felt. Like there was this thing in my back that I could feel. And so I'm not sure if the damage here was due to the back breaking or whether it was due to the cancer. Just so we fill in some details here, when I showed these to Dr. Cox, he said, "You have to get chemo right away." And I said, "No, I don't. I broke my back. That's where this comes from." "No, it isn't. That's the cancer." What the cancer did is it ate out your bones, and that caused the bones to collapse, and that's what's causing your bone collapse is the cancer, and not the fact that you fell 12 feet out of a tree. I said, au contraire. You know why? Because at that point, I went to go see a fabulous chiropractor who was just amazing. And she had set me up. She hardly did any chiropractic at all. I was suspicious, like, why, you don't do chiropractic? Because she's a Pilates instructor is what she is. And she set up these series of exercises that rehabilitated my back. And now, right, I have nothing. I could do whatever I want. I climb trees again. The other day, we were at the baseball game, and I was jumping to the next seat. And then eventually Christy says, "Should you do that?" Oh, yeah, I guess I shouldn't.
A very simple question. How do you tell is the pain from the bone or from your muscle? Muscle pain and bone pain.
Well, bone pain's got a different feel to it. It's more achy, it's more deep. Muscle pain also hurts when you go like that, or you do whatever, or you press it. Ow, 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 ow. You can tell because muscle pain. You feel it, you can palpate it. So.
But the bone pain, you just sit there doing nothing. Hurts.
Now, you're going to make me ask a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to veer the whole thing and start working your case. I can't do that. But there's an answer, but I can't give it to you now.
What's the explanation for your heart?
I don't know. Good question. I thought the same thing. That's astute of you. Why the heck is my heart picking up all the glucose like that? It's like, also, everything's darker on this side. Somehow the glucose was more. The soak-in was better. All the radiation was more concentrated. It's also, you look at the liver, same thing. There's a liver. There's a liver. No, I'm saying it wrong. This is flipped. There's a liver. There's a liver. And this one's darker than that one. So it's weird. Yeah, there was a difference between the two. Uh-huh. Okay, so let's go and do more the actual talk here. Okay, blocking glucose. Here's stuff that'll do it. So diet, yeah, duh, don't eat bagels. Exercise, well, isn't that clever? If you burn your calories before your cancer has a chance to eat it, you get it and they don't. Which, y'all knew this was going to happen. Dr. Luper, in the end, does it boil down to eat right and exercise? Yes, it does. Once again. So I've never done a talk yet that didn't have the punchline, eat right and exercise. Here it is. So berberine is a plant. It's actually a substance. It's a bioflavonoid that comes from a number of different plants. The one that I get it from is Mahonia, otherwise known as Oregon grape. So that's one of the ingredients in the, there's Mahonia down below it. One of the ingredients in the formula that we do. Quercetin's another one. It's another bioflavonoid that blocks glucose. Hydrotherapy is an interesting one. They did a research, I think, do I have a slide on this? Yeah, right here. They did research with rats where they kept them, they injected colorectal cancer into them. You know, they just surgically implant it. And then they keep the rats in a 4-degree centigrade, about 40 degrees, room, or they keep them in just a regular 72-degree room. And then they just let them do what they do and see how the tumors grow. And the cold room rats had 20% of the growth that the warm room rats had. Why? Is that legal? Oh, bagels. Yeah, this is the bagel thing, right? Yeah. No, okay, what? No, it's not bagel, Larry. So why do the cold rats grow cancer slower than the hot rats? I think it's obvious. Cold rats burn more calories than hot rats. That's it. Now, how do we know that? How do we prove that? Well, because there's this thing in us called brown fat. And brown fat's job is to warm us up. So if we get cold, brown fat turns on and starts burning calories and generating heat. Brown fat sits up at the top of your shoulders, basically your neck, and it can be stimulated. I know, I've done it. Because I was curious, can I get this to work? There's this guy called Wim Hof. He's famous now because he's got this thing where it's this camp where he freezes people and makes them run around and do push-ups and turns on their brown fat. And so they turn into this like heat-generating machines. He's famous for climbing to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro wearing underwear. True story. Oh, but it was underwear. It was shorts. But, you know, no coat, no shirt, no pants. Just up there with his buddies doing this thing. He also has the world record for swimming the farthest, holding his breath underwater. He has 22 world records of all the same ilk because he's figured out how to turn his body on to get his metabolism run hot, and he can do it for you now. You got some money and some time, you go join him at his camp and learn how to do it. So this is in the news, this is in the people talking about it. You can get a book on it, learn how to do it. And so this is part of my program from the beginning. One of the things I put in just right when I set the whole program up is have this hydrotherapy thing. So I felt very justified when I came across this research showing that they had already done this thing with rats. Now, back to the research. To prove that it was actually the brown fat doing it, what they did is they surgically removed the brown fat from the rats, a new batch of rats. Did the same thing and put the cancer in both sets of rats. None of them had the brown fat at all. The cold room rats grew cancer exactly at the same rate as the warm room rats, exactly. So we know that it was the brown fat doing it. So if you want to get your brown fat to turn on, you can turn your thermostat down to 40 in your house. It's doable. But what I have my patients do is cold showers. I have them do a hot shower and then do a cold shower and then do a hot shower and a cold shower and you go back and forth 3 times and let the cold water hit them right here. And you start off by having it only for 10 seconds and it's only half cold, you know, because cold water coming out of the tap around here is like ice cold. Yeah. In California, they can't do it. The cold water is not cold enough. They have to buy ice and throw it in the tub and then go and do the ice dunk thing, We are lucky to live in Alaska. We just turn the tap and cold water comes out. And so I find the better way to do this is to walk around outside with too few clothes on. And so that's what I do. In the wintertime, I go out with a t-shirt on or a light shirt on, depending on what the temperature is, and I walk briskly. Now, what I noticed was my hands freeze. Of course it does, because your body has a reflex to pull the heat into your core and leave your hands frozen. So I think, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, right? Because my hands are killing me. I found it works better if I close them into a fist. That traps the heat, but the thumbs freeze. I have to tuck the thumbs in. This is the position of hiking, and it takes me 7 minutes, I timed it, to turn. Now, 7 minutes is a long time of you thinking, I'm gonna get frostbite and die. I've had that voice in my head, no frostbite, my whole life, right? And I'm going against my training. You know, my training is to eat all the food on my plate, because I'm a card-carrying member of the Clean Plate Club, yeah. And also, I put on a Coke, because I'm not gonna die of hypothermia. Or hypothermia, but I fight against a tendency, put my things in and go like this, and then I turn, and the heat comes across my shoulders, pours down my arms, pours down my legs, my hands open up, and I'm fine. And I don't need to have any coat, I don't even feel uncomfortable at all. Let's go, we'll go hiking. It's a 7-minute process. So this is useful stuff to know how to do, because remember, what we're trying to do is absorb the glucose without having the cancer get access to it. Okay, let's go back to the exercise thing. So the meter is super helpful because the meter tells the truth. It'll tell you whether your sugars are high, and sometimes they go high when you don't expect it, and sometimes they don't go high when you do expect it. So the highest blood sugar I ever hit was after eating sushi. Who would have thunk? Of all, donuts or cake or something? No, it was sushi. It was that sticky rice around a piece of fish with a little bit of seaweed, which turned out to do nothing whatsoever to lower my blood sugars. So I ate a thing from Fred Meyer because I was trying to find something healthy. I didn't want to eat fast food, and I was starving. I was going to this exercise class, so I was going to only eat half of that little thing of sushi, but I was hungry. I ate the whole thing. And so I went to exercise class, exercised for an hour. This is after having exercised for an hour. And then went home and was pushing 300, my blood sugars. And so it was like, never again. Seriously, never done that again. That sticky rice is amazingly effective at getting your blood sugars up. I had no idea. Now, on the other hand, before I knew I had cancer, I was still experimenting with these devices because I want to know what they were like, because I have lots of patients that have blood sugar problems, and I have to live it to be able to teach it, right? How are you going to teach it if you never do it? So I needed to do it. So I went to a wedding, and they had, it was a fabulous wedding, and they had this fabulous layered cake. I could just tell by looking at it, that is a 3 or 4 in a lifetime cake. It's just that with the roses and the whole thing. So I can't eat cake. I have a hard time managing my blood sugars already. So I went to the guy whose job was to cut the cake, and I said, okay, I can't eat cake. So just cut me a slice that big. And he goes, okay. So he cuts a slice that big, about that tall, that big. Boom, ooh! And so I won't eat the whole thing, I'll just eat a bite. And then whoop, it was gone. And the rose. But it's for science, because I got the meter, right? It's for science. So I go home, 3 hours later, scan, look, there's no bump. What? There's no bump? How's that possible? It was cake with a rose, everything. What happened was, right before I ate the cake, I had this big plate of salad, because I had a killer salad there, spinach salad, of which I got 2 plates. I ate more than my allotted portion of salad, because I liked it. I wasn't being good, I just thought it was good. So I laid the cake on the salad and didn't suffer it. Now the calories were still there. It wasn't like I was going to slenderize on that piece of cake, but it did not push my blood sugars up. What an interesting trick. Now I'm not saying that my patients should eat cake. I say no, you should not eat cake. But there's ways to get blood sugars to come down or stay even, and even if you're not eating cake, you're just eating food. One of those things is to have lots and lots of vegetables. Question?
So do you think if you'd eaten the salad before you ate the sticky rice, would you get the...
Yeah, it would have been the same thing. I'd have been fine.
You're not going to get a...
Yeah, you know how I know that? Not that I ever ate sticky rice again, but my daughter, my lovely daughter, who loves to make pie, and she made 3 pies for Thanksgiving, And, oh, come on, you mean I'm not going to eat any pie? It ain't happening. So I had to set it up with the salad and the broccoli and the turkey and no dressing and none of the other stuff so that I could have the pie. And I did. I ate a slice of pie about that big, but I had one of each of the 3 pies. I enjoyed them immensely. It was 2 bites, and I thought it was fabulous. And I altogether ate a piece of pie, and my blood sugar stayed even. I stayed under 150. The game for me is under 150. Be better if it was under 140, but under 150, you know, it's Thanksgiving, so I gave myself a little, you know, wiggle room there. I needed that extra 10. And so I managed to keep my blood sugars even. And one more story about blood sugars. I got a call from my family. They were at a Mexican restaurant here in town and said, Dad, come join us. This was my little boy. And I was like, I can't eat Mexican food. You guys crazy? I can't do that. They put carbohydrates in a basket on the table. Are you crazy? I can't do that. And so I was like, please. All right, fine. I get there, and I didn't eat any chips, not a one, for 5 minutes. Then I started eating chips. Now, this is real life we're talking about. I thought it was pretty good. 5 minutes without eating chips. That was tough. I used all the willpower I had, almost. So I ended up eating some chips, not a basket full, just, you know, I don't know, 15, something like that. And then what I got was a steak, because I can do that, and a cheese enchilada. There's some carbs there, but there's also some cheese, and beans and rice because it comes for free. So, of course, you know what I did? I took the rice and pushed it away and did not touch it because I can't eat the rice. Rice is going to blow me up. But I ate the steak and the beans and the cheese enchilada and the whatever 15 chips, and it was too much food because I was hungry, and my blood sugars were going up like a rocket. Now, I checked at the restaurant. I was 137 and going up. I knew I was going to go past 150. So I went home, it was about 10 minutes, got out of the car, immediately went up the hill and started walking fast and just up the hill, right, with the dogs. They're so happy because we had to hike, and then flipped around, came back down, 15 minutes, checked my blood sugars, and they had hit just short of 150 and then come down to about 135. And then I checked them again later, and they rose back up into 150 and never crossed, and then came back down again. Woohoo, that's a win. Now, it'd be better if I didn't set myself up to eat so many carbs, because I have cancer. Come on, I have cancer. For real, this is not like fake. This is a thing. And I can't dink around. I got to do it right, except for I live in life here. I'm trying to do the best I can, figure out how to cheat and get away with it, but how not to cheat at the same time. This is an important story, because for everybody who's got cancer is trying to do the right thing, you can't be perfect. I don't know anybody who is. I mean, I'm not. I try. I strive. But it comes at great personal cost, right? It makes me, you know, a nut.
And your poor family.
Yeah, my poor family. They did research on people with diabetes, and what they discovered, this is a duh, is the better blood sugar control, the fewer problems they had. Better blood sugar equals fewer problems, except at the very end, where they look at people who ran perfect blood sugars all the time, they had more problems. So I'll draw the graph in the air. Here's problems going up. Here's blood sugar control going this way. So no control, high problems, better control, lower problems, lower, better, lower, and then back up. There's a bump right at the end. Why? How is that even possible? Why? Duh, we already said. I already told you why. Because only crazy people can do it perfectly. And you suffer the ill effects of being crazy. So we're not shooting for the 100%, we're shooting for the 90%, because that's where sanity lives, right there. That's a valuable lesson. Again, real research, actually done. This is showing what we know from common sense. Okay, let's look. How much time do I have? Oh, geez, I'm out of time. Hey, it's all right, I'm close to the end. Okay, so glutamine blockers, here they are. The interesting thing about this list is berberine again. And here, that's berberine, by the way. That's the Mahonia. Curcumin. There's a zillion research, thousands and thousands of research articles on how curcumin helps cancer. How does it help cancer? Here's one way. There's a zillion ways, right? All kinds of stuff. Green tea. There it is. It's actually for real helpful. This is one of the things it does. Scutellaria is a fabulous herb I say more about. And look, aspirin, lowly aspirin, makes the list. So one of the things I take is a baby aspirin twice a day. Okay, fatty acid blocking, statins. So you get regular, block your cholesterol statin drugs. Drugs have a place in this. Now, I haven't listed many drugs on this because I'm a naturopathic doctor and they're not allowed to write for drugs, and this makes me mad because I'm trained to do drugs. I did when I was in Oregon. I did when I was practicing in Arizona, but here in Alaska, they won't let me. I have 2 bills working their way through the legislation right now. It'd be lovely if you all could call somebody and make them pass it. But for 20 years I've been doing this, they haven't passed it yet. The MDs are out against me. Anyways, choke cherries are a fatty acid blocker. Finally, some good news about choke cherries. I feel so bad. I have like a bunch of choke cherries growing in my yard. I feel guilty. Oh, I got these choke cherries. I'm killing but no, they're good for me. Just strip them off the tree. Okay, I had to put this down. This is the phase 1 protocol. Yeah, I know, there's no way you can read it. Are those words? Right? Is that just a pattern? No, that's it. That's the protocol. So phase 1 is the blood sugar balancing part. Phase 2 is blocking cancer metabolism. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. And if I had more time, I could talk about what all those pieces are. There's to weaken cancer and promote cancer self-destruction. That's the apoptosis section right here. And with more time, I could go into details on all this. Interesting stuff. And how do you do it? I keep going through research. I keep finding things that work and thinking about it and then trying it and thinking about it, see what the results are and then thinking about it and trying it. And the experience that I'm looking for is when my patients come back in, they say, how you doing? They say, I feel great, Dr. Luper. So the nice lady with the 4 kids, how do you feel? I feel great, Dr. Luper. You any symptoms? No. Do you feel bad anyway? No. What'd your scan say? It says, I have a tiny little spot of cancer that's not growing. Are you cured? Mm-mm. But are you living? Mm-hmm. That's it. That's what we shoot for. Now, I still have patients that die, but usually there's a reason. I had a patient that died recently. She could not do the vitamin C IVs. She just couldn't. There was a flaw in her metabolism, and I could slow her cancer down. She lived a lot longer than she would have otherwise. But I could not figure out a way how to kill her cancer in the end. And I tried and tried and tried everything I could and couldn't do it. I feel bad about it. But, you work with what you got. But the thing is, you hammer at it, you be stubborn, you think about it. It's not that if anybody comes to me and they get cured of cancer, do you realize that is not how it happens? Not at all. Remember I told you, I'm in the passenger seat pointing vigorously, and my patients are in the driver's seat. They're the ones in control, and we work together. There's this conversation that we do. The nice thing about me as a doctor is I have set my practice up to have time to talk to people, because I'm not in this for the money. Seriously, I make a living doing it, but I'm in it to actually for real help people. I can just retire, but I have no desire to retire. I like doing what I do. There's all kinds of folks who, need somebody to work with, so that's what I end up doing. Not that I need the patients. I'm already booked up too much. I'm sorry, if you're thinking, oh, he's great, I want to go see him. Yeah, get in line. They're all booked up. I'm backed up. Now, if you really need to come in and see me, we will make a way. For a while, all I would let anybody come see me is that they had cancer. But I can't do it. I don't have it in me. There's too many people that have other stuff that really need to come in and see me. And it's more just if you are determined to break through the system and get in to see me, you're my patient, and I'll take care of you. Okay, any questions?
What is berberine?
Berberine, it's a plant thing. It's a bioflavonoid. It's famous for helping people with blood sugar problems. It's used in the natural world as an alternative to metformin. Metformin's the #1 drug, the first drug that you'll take to help balance your blood sugars. I find it works better, but I never use it by itself. I always use it with trigonella and gymnema and glycyrrhiza and oplopanix. Oplopanix is one of my favorites. It's Devil's Club. We actually went hiking last weekend, and I was on a bike walking, and I fell over into the Devil's Club. So anyways, you get a bunch of different herbs together. And the nice thing about the herbs is it's not one thing. It's not like the berberine does all the work. All we need to do is extract it and concentrate it, and it's going to do everything we want. No, herbs have 1,000 things in them. They're herbs. And maybe 50 of them are actually effective. And maybe 7 of that 50 are truly effective. But I'm going to use another 7 herbs mixed in as well. So we get this interesting balanced effect on people's physiology. Fewer side effects, and in my way of thinking, more effective. Now, if what you're trying to do is just hammer it into the ground, less effective. But if what you're trying to do is finesse it in the right direction, more effective. Because if you hammer it in the ground, then you're going to get side effects. And even if it does work, it won't work for long. Metformin is famous for working beautifully for the first 18 months, 24 months, and then it doesn't work. It quits working after that. It doesn't do anything. It's a waste of effort. It just doesn't do anything at all. You have to do something else. Same thing with Ozempic. You're good for about a year, year and a half tops, and after that it doesn't do what it did anymore. It does a little something, but not much. Other questions?
My question is about carbohydrates. And other cultures have a high consumption of rice, beans, and pasta. And do they have similar rates of cancer, or is there some kind of interaction with the other things that are mixed in with those?
Boy, that's an excellent question. I'm supposed to repeat these questions. So in other cultures who eat lots of carbohydrates, that their culture is built on carbohydrates, do they have more cancer? The answer is no. They have less cancer. Huh? How's that even possible? Yeah, that's a good question. Let me give you an example. India eats tons of carbs. They have this thing called naan, right? It's a bread thing, and you eat it with rice. I mean, come on. You put a little sauce on it, and you're eating bread and rice together with a little sauce. Yeah, and they get cancer rates are 1/10 of what we get in the United States. That's a big difference. 90% less cancer than we do. You go, how is that even possible? You know, we live longer than they do, but not so much difference anymore. We're more similar than we're different. And the Luper theory is they eat more spices than we do. And what they're getting is protection from the spices that protect their blood sugars, that protect their cells from cancer. And you notice a zillion of what things I'm having here are spices. Like the curcumin, that's a spice. That's they eat in India. It's called curry. That's the main ingredient in curry. So I think that's what it is. And also, that's the first thing. Second thing is as a society, they're more physically hardworking. They're more agrarian, they're more laboring, they're more, because you want to get something done in India, you don't get a machine and a guy with a little thing and he's running this. No, you get 27 dudes with a shovel and that do the job. And so the act of being physically active uses the sugars up, and so there's less available for whatever cancers are doing. And also just that you get blood flow going. If you can get blood flow to improve, your chances of surviving cancer goes up more than anything else you can do. The number one, I'm sorry, I should have told this at the beginning. The number one most effective thing to survive cancer is exercise. Oh, come now, Dr. Luper, what about chemotherapy? No, it's after exercise. Then why are they telling us to exercise all the time? I don't know, probably because you have cancer. Who's least likely to exercise? Someone with cancer, right? True. And so, you got to use your energy to do as much as you can. We're just trying to get you here to the visit. So that's where we're going to use your energy to come in the visit. By the way, there's a candy bowl there. You can have some. Okay? I know, I go every few months and hang out. Question?
Yeah, you just went to Italy. Was any of that medical tourism?
No, it wasn't. It actually wasn't Italy. It was Spain. What it was, I did a bike trip with my family. My wife loves me, and so she knows how I am. And so I had a broken back, and I was doing this cancer treatment, and I was going to hell in a handbasket. And she says, I know what we should do. Let's do a bike trip in Spain. And I was like, oh, God, I want to go so bad. So I got better. True story. And so we went, and it was great. It was super, super fun. I liked it especially when one of the ladies in our group, who was in her mid-70s, she's from Alabama, she's so sweet, and she called me sweetie. She rode by me and said, sweetie, you're doing fine. You're going to make it to the top. It's just going to be one. We're going to wait for you. And I was like, ah. And she went by me and up the hill and around the corner. Now, she was on this thing called an e-bike. Boy, what a great invention that is. So it was for fun, is what it was.
Out of respect for everyone's time, a big hand for Dr. Luper.